perhaps being one of the biggest mysteries in the Dead Space story other than the original creators of the markers, is that of the red marker, or marker 3A to be more exact. Where did it come from? Who created it? What made this marker different from the others? And what was the connection to the hive mind? Was there to be a power play going on behind the scenes? Well, stick around and I will uncover what I have found in this video, where we will delve into the lore of Dead Space and the remake in order to find out what the truth may be. The origin of the red markers, that being marker 3A, 3B, and 3C, had been created by the sovereign colonies, of whom had been attempting to find an easy way out of the conflict with both the Earth Rebellion and the Earth Government, which had led into them recovering old blueprints of the black marker derived from the events of Dead Space Martyr, where Dredgercorp had originally been the ones to begin the recovery operation. However, the military led by Craig Markov had taken over from there, and their scientists would construct blueprints that they had deciphered from the black marker. However, thanks to the efforts of Michael Altman, these records had been destroyed with the ocean facility as it sunk into the depths. Moving forwards through time, the scientists of the sovereign colonies had followed the instructions to the letter. However, unlike the black marker, these were of a reddish hue, with the body of the double helix remaining a very dark shade of red. There were red glyphs or symbols that glowed a bright red color, almost as if the monolith were to be bleeding from within. The activation of these markers were to be set once each one was in position on each planet, Aegis VII, Asperia, and Crema, and once the activation was successful, the markers would seem to emit a signal that went through the electromagnetic spectrum, which would go into brainwave frequencies, alpha, delta, and theta, which would begin to play on the workers, the scientists, and the other personnel in the sites, and eventually an outbreak would begin with necromorphs taking control of these sites, and their order would become disarrayed. However, the survivors of this grisly takeover were to gain visions of making the marker whole again. To become whole, one must lose their individuality and become one with the marker. The markers would make it aware that they needed the creators to be consumed by the outbreak in order for the event known as convergence to begin. However, they were elsewhere in the universe, and so the red marker sent out visions to Dr. Foster, who would build the device known as the pedestal to amplify the marker's abilities. In doing so, however, they would find that the dead would sleep, but the living would then see what could not be forgotten: the mental blueprint. However, the intention here was to further spread the infectious self-replicating signal to the scientists, and to further project the signal back to the half-formed moon orbiting Tau Volantis, which would lead the Scav forces to the marker homeworld, which is what they had thought it to be. However, they soon found it to be further from the truth, and the markers had led them to another race that had made the same mistakes as them, and so the Order Scenario 5 had been enacted, with the eradication of their order, leaving no traces of the marker sites, and only the markers themselves in the wake of the planets, alone for nearly 200 years until the CEC had breached the restriction order and the events of the first Dead Space comic had begun. The connection between the marker and the hive mind, or the necromorphs, isn't exactly what Dr. Kyne puts it as. Remember what a developer from Visceral Games had stated about the characters, that they do not know what they are talking about, but merely they are just guessing, speculating, as the marker's properties are very complex. The only character in the whole Dead Space universe to even have come close to fully understanding this connection was to be Dr. Serrano, who stated that the signal travels from the moon, splitting off into the other markers, who then in turn spreads the signal like mobile towers or network hubs or even a BT cabinet. hence why the two signals seem different, with the master signal being far stronger than the marker signals. The signal, however, travels through the larger forms to the smallest, which is why the characters believe that the hive mind was to be the ones controlling the necromorphs. Originally, the scene with Nicole in Chapter 7 was to be a high indicator of the two forces clashing. However, now the remake has debunked this, as the necromorphs were attacking an actual person rather than just a hallucination, which is what it was always meant to be. The marker is indeed the one pulling the strings here. The reason as for this divide in the story is due to a clash, but not one seen in the games. The two developers Ben Wannett and Chuck Beaver had their own ideas for the apparitions, where Chuck wanted the apparitions to be subject to a genetic defense imprinted on humanity from their alien creators, which would be often mistaken to have derived from the markers themselves. However, Ben wanted all of these properties to come from the markers, and for everything in the universe to be antagonistic, which gave birth to a very dull storyline. At least with Chuck's story, there would be a deeper meaning behind these apparitions, a sense of wonder in the universe, similar to how the Halo universe has the Domain and the Librarian who comes to aid the Master Chief in the events of Halo 4. But sadly, that wasn't meant to be. So that is the reason as to why the divide exists between the three games in the main series. However, getting back to topic, the marker is the one pulling the strings. However, the necromorphs are their own beings as well. They are recombinant life forms, very much like infectious bacteria, which are very similar to the Flood's beginning stage, the feral stage, where they kill and recombinate anything organic so that it will add to the death toll, creating more bodies to infect. Hence why they possess some knowledge on sabotaging machinery or using the ventilation systems to their advantage. The marker can only influence the necromorphs, hence why they attack Isaac and other characters despite doing what the marker wants them to do. The perceived power play at hand here is a manipulation of the marker in order for it to get what it wants, to achieve its goals, and that is to lead a species back to the moon on Tau Volantis, with the use of the pedestal, and to infect others with the mental blueprint, as a marker cannot commit to convergence until the makers have been absorbed, and the death toll has reached its peak. So for Dr. Kyne's observations, he is merely speculating about the power play between the red marker and the hive mind, and isn't in fact in the lore itself, as many do believe so. And he too is being manipulated and influenced by the marker. From what we have seen throughout the Dead Space lore, the signal travels from the moons to the markers and then through to the necromorphs and the dead bodies. So they are all connected, and there is no power play. This whole topic derives from Dr. Kyne attempting to gain a grasp on how the necromorphs operate and their connection to the markers. And so we have come to the conclusion of this video that the red marker isn't a force for good, but uses misdirection in order to achieve its goals, which were to become whole by activating a convergence event, but couldn't due to the makers being long since dead and ancient by the time of the second Aegis VII outbreak. Once the marker becomes fully aware of the plight, it then seeks to be reunited with the planet, where it could give people near to it the mental blueprint, so that they can make a marker and be consumed by the following outbreak. As if this marker cannot become whole, then it will at least spread the infectious blueprint to others who come across it. One question, however, remains: are the markers sentient? Yes. They are sentient beings due to the consciousness of the Brethren moons, as even Brant Harris speaks about how the moons want to become whole, and that they are coming to make us whole. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this video clears up any questions many have been conjuring up after playing the game, and going through Kyne's logs on his own observations. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. Comment your thoughts below and I look forward to hearing from you. Sign up to join the British Alliance today by hitting the subscribe button and ringing in the notification bell for all updates, as YouTube doesn't notify us when new videos go up unless the bell has been activated. A special thank you to all of my members for your extra mile support. It certainly helps in creating new content for all of you. If you would like to become a member of this channel today, then hit the join button and see which of the tiers is for you. And I will see all of you among the cosmos, and be sure to have a good one.